Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, Charles Dillatore, and Ashley Buckhold dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, plus use our combined experience to tell you what it all means. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of The Lumber Word, episode number 115. Excited, looking forward to this one. We've got a guest that's been on before, but not for a while, so I'll reintroduce Matt Layman. Matt, welcome. If you want to just give your elevator pitch about what you do. Most of your listeners know what you do, but for those that don't, go for it.
I tell lumber people a little bit, a lot about the little bit of things that's going to happen in the future versus a little bit of a lot of things about the past. So my field of expertise is softwood framing lumber and OSB. I primarily focus on 2x4s for my indicators. We're probably most well known for FDPs, forecasted decision points. They project a win in the future. Prices are likely to rise and fall, and that's based on repeating human behavior.
So Matt, why do you create such ripples in the water from certain people when you say some stuff? They're like, that Layman guy says some stuff that's crazy sometimes.
I'll tell you who says it and what they say. Let's see.
This is live, Matt.
I think that's good because you know what? If you want to be a little bit controversial, and if people are upset with what you say, what they're really saying is that their position is different from what you're saying. That's what they're saying when they say that.
And I used to say that all the time about I don't want to talk to people talking their position, and I talk my position. My position is whatever the FDB. Like right now, I've got the market turning at week number 10, going down through week number 27. It's going all the way through the end of August. And consequently, I got short the board at $640, and now I've had lots of opportunity to average in.
And you'll be able to spread off. You'll be able to spread off on Monday and buy the and sell the SYP contract.
Yeah, that's going to be.
You're going to be able to get Texas short.
I got a feeling I could be all the open interest if I wanted to.
So Matt, at the end of this, we'll kind of give a little. You can talk to some people how they can sign up for your report and so forth. Kind of what we wanted to talk about today, and we're happy to have you here, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to went through the different notes that people sent on Spotify, Apple, LinkedIn. I'll only put the G and PG ones, the R ones. I won't put up there what people told us to do with some certain things. One of the listeners said, "Can you get Matt, or can you get Charles and Greg a seatbelt?"
No.
No.
I'm not a real big fan. Neither one of us are real big fans of authority. What to do?
Jared from Minnesota.
Charles, let me tell you. Do you wait in lines anywhere?
No, I don't. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
If there's a line, I go somewhere else.
That's it.
Honestly.
I see. That's why I love you. It's the same thing. It's like, hey, there's a line for something. Okay, we're not going there. We're going to go do something else.
I get so mad about that, but that's exactly where I am.
It's like, why can't you wait? Like, I'm a habitual jaywalker. Why can't you wait for the light to change? Well, because there's no cars coming.
All right, so Jared from Minnesota said he just wanted to know when the show was on because it didn't launch last night. And I told him we're doing it live, so this is the second time we're doing it live. Isaac from Northwest Ohio, Isaac, asked if the tariff prices were built into the current lumber prices right now. We're going to address that in the future here. Dylan asked if I needed a life coach, and if so, I could talk to Alberto. I don't know what that means, but that was one of the responses.
That's a little creepy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like an ayahuasca visit.
Exactly. And one of the Spotify listeners asked how they could get into the lumber business after listening to our show a bunch.
How much money do they have?
Exactly. So kind of wanted to go through, kind of give a little talk about what we're doing. I want to do a market update quick. Then we'll go into housing numbers. We'll talk a little discussion on that, what Isaac was asking about. We're going to talk about the LinkedIn poll that you did on Pine, Greg. We talk a little bit of follow-up on some more of these replies that we had to some questions. Marry, date, dump segment, opportunities, and then anything that's open. Does that sound all good to everybody?
That's a lot. Let's go.
It's a lot. All right. So just market update. All right, Charles, pine.
It's kind of touch and go. I mean, we sold good wood and good amount of wood, and there's people that need things, but everything's tomorrow. Nothing is extended. Like I talked about last week, we sold some jobs in Q2 week ago. People are getting a little bit more comfortable with where things are. As far as tariffs go, from what I've gathered, pricing is pretty much covering it. Whatever market influence it's going to have, it's already happened. And I would argue that with the smartest person in the room, because there's no reason.
Here, Charles, I'm right here.
Well, we're not going to argue because we'll agree on this, right, Greg? So, but the big thing
there's not going to be a tariff. There's not going to be a tariff, so don't worry about it.
Well, then the market's going to go down. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, because just like Ash, you've talked about this. The question that we've all been wanting to know is did we pull a lot of business forward that was going to be bought at the end of March, early April in Q2? And I think that definitely occurred based on what's happening over the past couple of weeks.
Okay. So no. So my question, Charles, hold on a second. Let's talk some real numbers here. So you bought, where are you buying 2x4 Southern Yellow Pine East Side at?
A lot more than I want to. I mean, long links are over $500 on the East Side. And, 6 inches is a little bit soft, but discounts aren't much compared to random, right? Because
what are 16s on the East Side going for today?
4-inch?
Yep.
East Side, 520 to 535.
Is that what you'd pay today if you were bidding? So where are mills taking? Because I heard there are Southern Pine mills on the East Side taking underneath print on 4-inch.
Yeah, but it's not much.
Yeah, but not much at all. What's not much?
$5. I mean, there's no they don't have buildups. I mean, 6-inch raw material I buy in swaths, right? I buy 30, 40 trucks at a time. I mean, in the past 2 weeks, about 1.7 million foot just for production. And the fact of the matter is I'm not finding the availability in raw material to satisfy what we have forward sold to make it all work. And mills are kind of standing in the line, and they're actually doing a really good job. And I think prices are going to right size based on production being right sized in the pine market. I think the market will give some back, but there's not going to be a collapse like there was in July. Maybe in spruce. I mean, I heard somebody selling Lake Charles 2x4 premium Euro at $730 FOB port. I don't know how long that's going to last. I mean, you tell me.
Well, I mean, we'll get to the Euro in a second. That's really not that big of a discount. Yeah. So, but my question
I feel like
is
it's elevated.
But my question is, so you had 4-inch printing down a little or printing up in the East on midweek print, but you're saying you can buy at a discount right now.
A little bit, not much.
All right, Matt, how about your people? What are they buying in the pine side of things right now?
But I will add to that. The reason why is because 8-inch has gotten a little bit better, so they're not ripping as much back to 4-inch.
But you always say only old people use 8-inch.
They do.
And 10-inch.
You would know that.
The older you get, the less you want to pick up a Southern Pine 2x10, though.
I guarantee it. I don't want to do it now.
But my guys have all been backing off of this market for the last couple of weeks. The last time they bought was probably 3 weeks ago. They were buying 50 under print on 2x4s for small volumes. And those, I got that number from several truss manufacturers in the Southeast. So they were, but I think for the most part, they're out of the market right now. They've like Charles said, they bought ahead. But the biggest thing is people don't want inventory because the housing data and economic data is just so poisonous. There's nothing. I mean, I've been trying for months now, trying to find something good about housing. And the only thing you get a report on that seems to be encouraging is maybe interest rates are falling, but they're only falling from lack of demand, not from people covering them business.
Hey, Matt, Rick Kovacs, I think I spelled, is it Rich or Rich Kovacs says hi. He's on LinkedIn watching us.
Hello, Rich.
Well, that's cool. So let's go into spruce. I could tell you what Greg and I saw this week, limited offerings. When there were offerings and you put bids on stuff, don't be surprised if you got what you were bidding on or pretty damn close on specific things. I would say 6-inch random, 6-inch straight lengths, 8-inch random, 8-inch straight lengths and spruce were the weaker items out there. 4-inch I wouldn't say it was a strong item, and there were loadings. If they were loading, you could pick them off at some pretty good numbers. 2x4, 8s, 9s, 10s in different trims and stud and number 2 were pretty good for as far as counters go, but we're just not seeing the volume offered out there from mills right now. European, Charles, you were saying 730 there. I would say pretty much everywhere on premium 2x4 16s now, you're 740-ish on all the ports. A couple vessels just hit the Cape now. 2x6 16s, you're probably low trade of 630. They're probably 650 ask. Studs, the limited amount of studs, those have been pretty strong though. 2x4 116s, 2x6 116s. So kind of, it's interesting. You can buy really inexpensive stuff that wants to load, but if you get an order, you're getting the print or the full markup on it. There's just not enough orders out there. Greg, what's your thought on spruce?
Yeah, spruce prices are elevated right now because there's just not the product being offered to the market. You think about it, whether it's our mill that is building inventory and has no shipping file, waiting to see what happens next Tuesday. There's a lot of mills in Eastern Canada where we trade that's the case. You've got some mills that are trying to hybrid quote with some portion or of a anticipated tariff in the price. There's no interest in that whatsoever. You've got some hybrid deals that are really wishy-washy where it's like, well, here, we'll sell you this car, and if there's no tariff, the price is this, and if there is a tariff, the price is this, and it's somewhere in between what it would be either way. I always look for win-win situations, and that just sounds like a lose-lose. And it's messy. We have come up with in the last, I say more of the week, and there's some things that people feel they can get across the border that have traded at some pretty hefty discounts. So I had this conversation with someone today, and they were telling me, no, the market's very strong. I'm saying, well, it's only strong because of the lack of offering of product. If all the mills said, hey, these prices are the best prices that we've had since COVID, we want to be selling.
All of it. They should sell all of it.
I'm saying this is, so mills are built in, and listen, mills are the strongest holders of inventory until they're not. Numbers, Ash, Matt Layman alluded to it. And, I think, we had new home sales, we had existing home sales, we had pending home sales, and they're all kind of punk. They're okay. I mean, at the run rate that we're at. And, I think the question's going to be over the next couple of months on housing starts on the demand side is, our projection is we were going to be really flat on last year, and there's nothing that I see right now that is going to change that. Other than, potentially if a lot of the things that are going on with the new administration, slow the economy more than anticipated, then that's going to be a negative.
Well, let's look at the figures. New home sales, seasonally adjusted annual rate of 676,000 units, up 1.8 from January's revised 664. Median sales price 414, average 487. Inventory 500,000 homes, 8 to 9 months supply. Existing home sales February 2025. Sales rate SAAR of 4.26 million units, up 4.2 from January 4.09 and down 1.2 from February. Median price $398, up 3.8 year over year. Inventory 1.24 million homes, 3.5 months supply. Pending home sales rose 2% to 72 from January, 70.6 down 3.6 from February. Here's what I find interesting. Momentum shift, right? All three metrics show month over month gains in February. But however, year over year trends are mixed, right? New home sales are up just 0.51%, while existing are down 1.2% and pending down 3.6% on the lag. Inventory divergence. New home sales boast a 8.9 month supply near buyer's market territory, while existing home sales sit at 3.5 months. Still a seller's market. Pending home sales as a leading indicator don't directly measure inventory, but reflect counter activity amid these conditions. Glut of new homes versus scarcity of existing ones point to the builders flooding the market, while homeowners with low mortgage rates stay put. On the price dynamics, new home, $414,000 median outpacing existing homes. Think about that. New homes, $414,000 outpacing existing homes at $398,000 by 4%.
Hey,
reflecting yeah.
Sorry. You know that like sexy grok voice that you have on your AI? Can you get her to recite all that? Can you get
Greg? It's right. It's right though, because it's not bullshit. Like we can all spin. We can all spin. We can spin. We can
have her saying it, not you.
Yeah, but we can put roses out of our ass and spin this stuff. The housing data sucks right now.
What's that? Yeah, what's the bottom line?
It's just punk. It's just like blah. It's there. It's not terrible, but it's not.
Okay, well, we'll get into Lennar. We'll get into Lennar and KB Homes earnings in a few seconds.
And, I love when you get fired up like this, huh?
Well, what I'm saying is, like, do your research and don't just bullshit me here. There we go.
Anyway, so basically, I'm going to sum up both of y'all's statements here. So Greg's saying that mills are holding inventory because they're anticipating tariffs. There's a mixed signal between a win-win and a lose-lose or a win-lose scenario as far as the buy-sell side in Eastern Canada. You're telling us that housing numbers are mixed, but it's not positive, right? It's leaning to the negative side. So really what that lends us to believe is what Matt described before we got on here is a potential downturn in lumber prices for the next 30, 60, 90 days and finding a sort of stabilization range when things change. And I think a majority of that.
Hold on a second. I don't know what you just said there.
You don't know what I just said.
Do you understand what you said?
Yeah. So
Charles, I'm on board with you. Like what you said.
So Greg's saying that mills are holding off because they have mixed signals. They don't want to sell into it. They want to see what tariffs do, yada, yada, yada. Yes. What Ash is saying is that the numbers in housing is mixed with a downward trend is basically what you're saying, right?
Yes.
I'm showing that we're running out of buyers at today's current level.
So it has a downward momentum twinge to it. Is that fair?
And I had to put a little emphasis on it so we can get more listeners. Greg, sorry you're on the receiving end of that.
What's that? I'm sorry I missed that.
So what we're really getting at is that housing isn't where we need it to be, and mills don't want to sell into it, and they're building inventories. So that lends us to what.
I don't think housing's any different than we had projected and anticipated it to be. It's not down, but it's not up. It's just.
Well, I agree with you, but we're talking about a market
that it was at.
I completely agree with you, but here's the problem: you're talking about a commodity market where pricing moves based on supply and demand. And if the demand stays flat, and the reason why a lot of people are hypothesizing prices are where they are is due to business that got pulled forward, right? April, end of March, April, middle of April, end of April buys, there could be a wrecking ball, I guess is what I'm saying, to current levels that we're at. Is that fair? Am I off base?
I want to see what if Matt Beamer could give us some insight into the Pacific Northwest. I saw midweek West Coast down by big double digits, and I'm wondering whether that's going to be even further down. Is it whether the market's even further down below that?
That was Greg's polite way of saying, Charles, stop talking. That was what that was. I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that.
Called out Matt specifically, didn't he?
I want to get another view in, but we got to get Beamer's sound back on. Charles, start talking again.
Well, while Matt gets his sound on,
Yes. Yes. We can't hear you. Yes.
Yes.
No, Greg's got a little bit of lag. Look at his face.
Tell us about US West.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to sum up. It's everything that I said last 2 weeks. At the end of the day, nothing evaporates faster than a 3-week order file if you go 1 week without any orders, right? And that's where we are in the West. So we got, Sierra, Hampton, Weyerhaeuser, mills are out there. They haven't been selling production the last few weeks, and now they're having to fight for orders and compete. And I'm part of that, and we're part of that. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of pressure on the random lengths prices on certain things. I think the biggest suspect right now would be 2x6 and 2x12. It doesn't really matter what species, green or dry. It just that's what the mills have the most of, right? Enough 2x4 in the sim out west to meet demand, especially pimpy tallies. It's hard to buy that kind of wood right now. So 2x4 is holding its value, but better trade is it's just going to be lower prices than previous. That's where we're at. And then with that, I'm going to get going because I can't really understand this conversation. Internet connection is so bad that you guys are dropping it every 3 seconds. Is that all right?
I mean, you're clear as water now.
All right, we gotta get you a tech update.
Live from Tel Aviv, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like Portland is, what is it? Portland, it's like a third world country or something, huh? I mean, they got better.
Man, I thought it was bad down here in rural.
Well, the thing is, his internet looked great this time. I just couldn't hear him.
Yeah.
Can I interject something? I think the big question to ask ourselves is, what's more important, a $100 1,000 price increase or having too much lumber going into April and May? And I think that people are concerned about what the prices are. They're just more concerned about making sure they don't have too much inventory, because the builders and consumer confidence are flat out telling you, the builders are saying their 6-month traffic or their walk-in traffic is the worst it's ever been. And I think when the builders are telling you they're not going to be doing well, that's all we got to listen to.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is they're going to continue to move product. I mean, their margins are still above their long-term average, and so they're going to continue to move product because they, I mean, that's what they're in business to do. So, I don't see the national builders as being the issue. It's more, regional, medium-sized, small custom builders. I think that's a bigger issue. And, my big wild card is, hey, what's repair and remodeling going to look like? And, I'm sorry that Matt dropped off, because normally he can shed a little bit of light on that. That's a huge amount of lumber consumption. And we're going into the most important time of year for them, the next 90 days. So, that's my question.
Greg, I have no idea. What is the average for the home builders? I saw Lennar's on their earnings. I'm looking at down from 20.8% to 18.7, KB 21.4.
It used to be
19.5.
It used to be a 10 to 12% margin business, Ash. That's what it used to be. It expanded massively during COVID. And I think it's going to reversion to mean it's going to drop down. Maybe it doesn't drop all the way down to those numbers, but it drops to the lower middle single teens.
Because it looks like Lennar did have to give up some margin to get business put together,
and they're going to, and that's what their share of home sales, new home sales this year is probably going to be at a record level.
So that covers the housing, but I kind of want to go back to, is the price of the tariff built into the current prices?
Yes. Short answer.
Greg?
That's what I'm wrestling with to try and really determine. I mean, because that's the big question. I think if I'm forced to think, I think this has to be. It has to be. Because with what's happened over the last 2 months, there's no way that we haven't priced that in.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think?
I'm kind of in the middle. I think some of it's baked in and some of it's like Charles was saying, pulling forward orders from the spring. So you got a little influx of inventory building, which added some fuel to the fire right at the end of February, all through March, really. But I think we've given back some on the cash side. It looks like we've given back some of that down cycle that we're in anyway. But some of that, we still have a lot of. If you look at a graph, you just have a big gap on the way up, the last leg up, where prices gapped open on that March 4th week, and we're just slowly kind of chipping away at it. So I'd say I think some of it's baked in, but not all of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at spruce prices from January until now, on a market basket, they're up 30%. Now, there's some items that are up 40+%, and then like actually 2x6 is actually lower right now. But on a market basket, they're up 30%. So, I've had this argument where, well, that's just, people buying their spring inventory needs. That's why the price is up. It has nothing to do with, a potential tariff. That's a counterpoint, right? Okay. But the reality is they're up 30%.
Yeah. I had a guy tell me today, go back and look at prices a year, how low they were. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what does that have to do with?
That's an apple and orange comparison, because last year mills were running 3 shifts, cut and burn, kill timber in the East.
Good point. So Greg came into the office the other day, leaned against.
Oh, he works? I thought he was retired.
Well, leaned in. He was probably in there 2 hours before I got in.
Than I've ever worked. Come on. Ash is killing me.
So he basically said, and it made sense, and I was thinking about it for a couple of days, the hardest thing to do right now, and if we look at the CME, it was giving you $700 in July. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it is.
That would be the hardest thing to sell right now. And when I talk to people at the mill level, a large percent of them are telling me the price isn't built in, and we have a potential upside of $100, right? I'm not disagreeing with that, but from what I feel, we've started to build an inventory already. We've probably built an adequate inventory at some places. I don't know, maybe some places you don't. But I'd have to think that the price is pretty far baked into it already. And one of the things I look at, Matt, you and I talked about it when we were testing the system out today. If I look at the spread between Southern Yellow Pine and Spruce, it's kind of telling me that too, a little bit. I mean, that spread's getting wide. Southern Pine isn't getting dragged along with it. If this outtake was so good, I would think pine prices would be a little high, unless the production is just so off the charts at the Southern Pine plants, which could be that they're just pushing it out and effectively shipping it so quickly. So I would say, yeah, the price is built in. Here's the real question. If there is a tariff, what happens next week with price? And if there isn't a tariff, I have a feeling that we could put a tariff on next week. Prices could sit for a while, and all of a sudden they trade off to the downside. That would throw everybody off. That would be the strangest thing that could potentially happen, right?
Yeah, that's probably what we ought to count on too, with the unforeseen, unlikely.
Market does what causes the most people the most amount of pain and suffering. What is that? I
think the biggest thing that the market's going to expose itself to, or find out is going to happen, is builders in the South are going to be willing to pay $300 more for spruce than they do for pine. It's just been, they paid $200 before on 2x4 basis and never squealed about it. And what did builders tell us when lumber was $1,700? Don't run out of lumber. Whatever you do, don't run out of lumber. And what they're saying this year is, I can't give you any commitments for the second quarter. It's a whole different dynamic. And I don't think anybody in the whole pipeline is prepared for this. Is probably bullish. I don't think anybody's prepared for an upside surprise.
Well, Matt, let's talk about that, since you talked to a lot of people on the retail side with the higher interest rate environment, and with the word now that builders are asking for 90, 128 day locks. So they don't want to keep more inventory with interest rates, but the builders are wanting longer locks on stuff. How is that going to affect the price? I mean, that's bullish on price, right?
Yeah, just because the builders ask for it doesn't mean they're going to get it.
Yeah, but I think they are getting it.
Well, if that kind of tells me that their suppliers are not friendly to the market, they're thinking prices are going to go down, not go up, because that's a longer lumber lock than the 30 days they were trying to get before that. But seasonally, it's a time where the builders should not be asking for 90-day lumber locks. They ought to be asking for shorter lumber locks because we're in a downtrending season. So they want to have a shorter time frame of their look back so they can take advantage of price declines more than price appreciation.
Greg, what's your thought on that? Because you're the one that brought it up with me. You said, hey, you're talking to some people that have heard 120 days. And that's the first I've heard about it in a while.
Yeah. I mean, there were people that pushed out farther. I mean, I think you're the one that came to me yesterday and told me that on one of the earnings calls, one of the big national builders said that, no, we've got the second quarter mostly covered already. You know, I mean, we know of at least one national builder that runs a 13-week moving average, right? So, you know, that's a lot easier for the pro yard to manage. And, you know, I look at that and I say that's kind of a win-win for the pro yard and the build, because it smooths everything out pretty substantially. Yes, on the way up, you know, the pro yard is delivering wood under the current replacement cost market, but on the flip side, on the way down, they're able, you know, there's an incentive for them to shorten up their days of inventory, and you know their sell price is well above the current market. So as long as the takeout is consistent across the time period, I look at that as a potential win-win. You know, there's, I mean, we've talked about this. Charles has talked about this before, and I've got confirmation on it. Is, you know, listen, there's a lot more builders that are taking yellow pine 2x4 for plate than in the past. And I mean, it's, you know, it's reflective. It's reflected in you know, the relative prices that are being reported. I do have an interesting, and Ash, you and I ran these numbers, or we're running these numbers on the dichotomy between east side and west side right now, which is fairly sharp. You know, we got to look and see what that looks like as a run up to next week's Southern Yellow Pine contract. I did want to share, I put out a poll. So I put out a poll asking people whether they, come on, you gotta be kidding me.
You got your pole in the water?
Yeah, I keep it. You know, try and keep it out.
I'm going to leave that one alone.
So, you know, the new Southern Yellow Pine contract starts trading on Monday the 31st. Okay. And it is east side 2x4 random lengths based on an index number that's going to be published daily. Okay. Which is going to be reflective of, you know, kind of the index that we look at right now. My question was, are you interested in the contract? And, you know, my things were, yes, I will be a buyer. 43% of respondents said, yes, I will be a buyer. Charles said, yes, I will be a seller.
I thought this was supposed to be an anonymous poll, Greg.
Oh, yeah. No, 9% said 9%.
What's the point of a poll, right? I mean,
9% said they'd be a seller. 28% do not trade futures, and 20% need to know more. You know, for your need to know more people, please, you know, reach out. We're happy to give you any information we can. You know, I find that interesting, especially based on the conversation that we've been having, right? If you just listened to our conversation, you'd think it'd be 43% want to be a seller, not a buyer. Right?
That's a good, yes. Yep. So how much volume and openage do you think we're going to have on Monday? Do you think the CME is doing a great job getting it out there, pushing it, but there's still a lot of people that, you know, that are that like waiting to see what happens in our industry, right? Are we going to get some mills involved in this one? What are we going to, how are we going to look on this one? Matt, what's your feedback on the south side?
I think it's going to be everybody's going to be sticking their pole in the water and staying as far away from it as they can to see what's going to happen. I think it's going to be incredibly volatile because you don't have any idea how much the open interest is going to be and the volume on a daily basis. I might have to bet that we're going to be less than 100 a day in the first couple of weeks anyway. But Southern pine mills don't know how to do this. It's not like northern mills or in the Pacific Northwest or even brokers or Canadian mills, but Southern pine mills don't have any experience with this. And I don't see it's a good opportunity, but I think that's probably why you don't have as many people.
Well, with that said, three of the biggest owners of Southern pine mills from Canada, two of them especially, trade the other contracts, so they should have some insight into trading.
Well, do they trade it based on their Canadian position or based on?
They do, but they do EFPs, which this program is really good for, potentially. I
don't know if their U.S. sales agents.
This is a no-brainer for any big consumer of the product. Because we all know that one of the challenges with Southern pine is like, hey, how do I cover longer out of a longer term, right? I mean, there's the challenges that the extra cost of storage, right? This is a real opportunity for the market, I think, and I think it's. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I had one interesting one here. I put something out on LinkedIn, Greg. Also, a video. It was the president of the National Association of Home Builders just explaining what we currently have for anti-dumping and countervailing duties against Canadian lumber and how much potential we could have in the third or fourth quarter with the new adjustments, plus if there's a tariff, 25%. I thought he did a good job. Somebody sent me a response on it. It says, and his point was it could increase the affordability of the price of a home.
And I think that has more to do, Ash, with, if you think about it, is big gypsum and
gypsum from Mexico. Gypsum from Mexico, right? But yeah.
It's other building products where lumber absorbs and it's a market that trades, but these others are. And if you remember during COVID, there was huge shortages of whether it was cement siding or I-joist or drywall or whatever, and that's because that product was on allocation. They didn't change the price. They didn't allocate supply based on price. They allocated supply based on who's their most important customer.
And a lot of those prices, Greg, good point. A lot of those prices have gone up and haven't come back down. A lot of those input costs.
Right, and those will just be a flat 25% increase.
So the response was, it says, sounds like Chicken Little and the sky is falling. In the Southeast U.S., where the big sector of new home construction is taking place, we see very little, if any, Canadian lumber. If you want spruce lumber, it's mostly coming from Europe. The tariff on Canadian wood won't have the impact as stated. Builders will switch to Southern yellow pine for most framing and buy Euro spruce for studs. Supply shortage solved.
Not a chance in hell.
So if anybody wants to edit that on community notes in my LinkedIn and respond to that, that's fine. But that's what one person thought. And I don't think I asked you last night, Greg, how many studs come from Europe versus dimension? Like 20%? And there's 2+ billion board feet of lumber coming over here and 20 to 25 billion board feet of Canadian lumber coming over here. I think a lot of lumber from Canada ships down to the Southeast, in my opinion. I don't have the exact thing on it, but a ton of it does. And you know what?
We ship it every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Still the preferred framing lumber of choice.
Yes.
Mike, question?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
No, Mike Carey had a question about what kind of impact could all this riffraff between southern pine and spruce going on. What kind of options are there for coastal Doug fir, hem fir, white fir to come into the south? I was going to ask Matt.
He put sorry, Charles. So, but yeah, basically it said when thinking about markets east of the Rockies and looking at potential spreads between SPF against SYP, what does it mean for the next best option in quotes regarding coastal inland Doug fir and or hem fir, white fir, especially to those. That's a great.
I think the thing you got to remember about between those two markets is southern pine timber is like $300 a cubic meter on the stump, and it's like 500 or 700 up in the Pacific Northwest, and they don't have as much available timberland to make new harvest. And who stated earlier that it just costs more to make lumber in the Pacific Northwest than it does anywhere else, and that unfortunately the place for growth is going to be in the South. We're going to get more of a product that people don't want to have more of.
That's I think what he's asking, Greg's usually pretty spot on this stuff. Greg, how do the spreads look right now between the next best option? Like, what are the spreads between Southern Yellow Pine, the new contract, and the coastal Doug fir, hem fir, and all that type of thing? Like, what's overvalued and undervalued right now?
Can I say this? I think what next best option, right? If you think about the total cost, Southern Pine wins 100% of the time. You don't have to manage supply chain. You don't have 2 or 3 touches. You don't have trucks traveling further. You don't have to wait on rail cars. I mean, I think it's going to be something that people aren't going to have a lot of say in. The market's going to determine what you do. It's my opinion.
I think the lowest cost one, if you just asked me to handicap it, I think coastal hem fir is probably, with the hemlock logs, is your first option relative to spruce. And then you're looking at probably Doug or just regular hem fir and white fir and Doug fir. So your hem firs will probably be cheaper than your Doug firs, I'm guessing. Is that one because of just weight and availability of trees? And look at Matt, you and I were talking, hell, for a long time there, if you go to the Southeast market, it's spruce and or hem fir or Doug fir, whatever is cheaper a lot of times on studs.
Especially in Texas.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mike, I hope we answered your question there. If we didn't, we can you can send us a note and we'll follow up and look at those different spreads. Merry date dump. And then any things that we have sitting out that we want to focus on.
I'm married to liquidity. Whoever's got it, I'm ready for it. Honestly. Very simply put, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what the species is. I think everybody's in a position to where, just like you mentioned, Ash, you're getting numbers, but you're not getting the volume. And the volume, as we know, is how we make a living in this business. Date dump, I mean, I don't know if I can put anything else into that bucket, just because everything's so amiss right now. This is a really weird market, and it's going to allow for a lot of opportunities if you play your cards right. But you could also lose your shirt. So happy trade.
I've been listening to you guys for several weeks, and I got to agree with Greg. I don't think there's going to be a tariff. I don't think there's going to be an additional tariff. I think 14% now is plenty. And another 14% coming. 30% is going to be by the summer. Is going to be. It's absurd. That's absurd already. Put another 25% on it is ridiculous. Canada's already been punished. They've already been paying. They are still paying. We got a little slush fund of $7 billion, not knowing what to do with. And you can't make a good case for putting on more tariffs on lumber.
I agree. With that.
Can I just?
I agree with that.
Can I add a point to that? And like. Look at full disclosure. I voted for the guy in the office right now, but I don't agree with this policy at all.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'll probably get caught. I'll probably get caught in Canada if they going across the border.
They're going to audit all of your electronic records. Boy. Remember that.
But here's my point. Okay. If I vote for somebody, I could still say I think this policy is absolutely horrible. And that's Greg, look at, when I hear the word lumber mentioned, Greg comes in the other day and he goes, he just mentioned lumber again. I'm like when you look at our total amount of volume and billions of dollars coming across the border, as much as it affects me every day, lumber is a minuscule amount. But he's mentioned it. He's mentioned it 35 to 40 times on TV all the time.
Like clearing the throat, though.
There's somebody sitting next to him that's in the lumber business that either owns timberland or has a mill in the U.S. or has some vested interest. Because when I hear him talk about this, it sounds crazy. There's already an AD and a CVD, an anti-dumping and a countervailing duty of, like you said, Matt, 14 to 24 to 38%, or it's going to go potentially to 20 some to 40 to 50% in some cases at some of the mills in BC. Add 25% to that, that's ridiculous.
Well, all the Canadians, I'm going to say all of the Canadians, probably every one of the Canadians, is so pissed off at Trump right now. And we're all guilty by association just because we're Americans.
Yeah.
And you can hear it in their voices when they're talking. They just get aggravated really quickly. And
yeah, I don't even, you know what? The head office in Montreal doesn't even call Ashley and I any longer.
No, but good. But my point is this: it doesn't matter where in North America or Europe you're producing or consuming lumber. Everybody should look at this, even if you're a U.S. mill, and say, "Hey, we've spent years figuring out I'm not going to agree or disagree. I think this current CVD and AD takes into account everything that the U.S. was complaining about. It probably is. It should probably be studied for all the other commodities out there. But the point is, in my opinion, you can't do that to one industry in Canada and then say we're going to pile another 25% on top of that. That's wrong.
We got a trade action that's gone through the whole system, and if we listened when we were in Vancouver, Zoltan gave an explanation of how it's done what the U.S. coalition wanted it to do. It's been successful, and it's the countervailing duty and anti-dumping is higher when when prices were lower, and then it's lower when prices are higher.
With a 2-year lag, right? Yeah.
There's a lag, right? That's maybe the imperfect part of it is there is a lag. If it was quicker, that might be better. But anyhow, I'm getting back. I want to highlight something. My Mary Date dump, whatever. 6 months ago, 2x6/16s European spruce were $200 a thousand over 2x4s. 2x6s were trading in the mid 700s FOB, the ports, and 2x4s were trading in the mid low 500s. We got a situation today where, we just told Charles just said 2x4s are in the mid low 700s. 2x6s are in the mid low 600s. We've had a $300 a thousand swing in that relationship. I did call that multiple times last fall. I told everybody it was going to happen.
Craig never misses an opportunity, does he?
Nobody listened to me.
Never misses an
I will say,
Ashley didn't even listen to me. Nobody listened to me.
I will say he did put his money where his mouth is too.
So, anyhow, we're looking right now, and I'm going to tell you that somewhere in the next 90 to 120 days, these two products are going to trade at the same price again. The same price. They're going to trade at the same price. 90 to 120 days.
What's that level, Greg? Let's get finite on this thing.
Is the 2x4 price or
mid 600s? Mid 600s. 4 inches overvalued right now. 6 inches marginally, maybe marginally undervalued. But I'm just going to say it's going to be in the mid 600s. They're both going to be trading at that price. There you go.
That's a great point. That's your Mary Date and your.
That's a Mary Date dump, and that's everything all rolled up in a. Do
you want to highlight the 2x12 that So we woke up the other day and we had a 2x12 vessel sitting in Rhode Island. We didn't just wake up.
How does that happen?
It does. It does. One quick thing I want to ask to everybody while we're sitting here. So the CME old contract that's going to still trade, obviously. If you took delivery on that right now for May will be the next contract we can take delivery, right? Obviously. And we're still sitting here trying to figure out this whole tariff thing, which we may be in May also. What's going to deliver on that, hem-fir or Canadian spruce?
It's a good question. I'm glad we don't have Matt Beamer on any longer.
My point is right now. Were there any deliveries on this last March contract, or have there been any?
Everything EFP'd. Everything EFP'd.
Okay.
Yeah. And
but when you EFP, they can build in whatever they want. When you take delivery, it's all in. You know.
Yeah, I mean, at today's price of $678 in May, that's a modest premium to the cash market today, right? We don't have Matt on, but I bet that's probably pretty close to what. I mean, if I look at like what the hem-fir numbers ran up in, kind of maybe taking advantage of the tariff scare, so to speak, right? And I think at midweek print, they probably reflected pretty close to a 670 number. They're probably trading less than that today. But yeah, I mean, Matt, Ash, that's really going to be a question of that's in the last couple of weeks. But the reality is that, and particularly if there's a tariff, and the market and spruce prices are higher, the number you want to watch is what the hemlock price is, because that's what will be delivered.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I agree with that. So I'll do my marry, date, and dump. I'm having a hard time on the married side. I'm fluctuating. I may have said this last time. Greg, I think a month and a half ago, you said we like 2x4 Southern Yellow Pine, and we started accumulating some stuff in 2x4 pine. Shipping it all the way up north. We've continued to do that. I'm still married and dating it. And the reason I'm saying married and dating, Southern Pine is kind of on that hot between crazy and not crazy thing for trying to figure out how to trade it.
Right? You're talking about the YouTube video.
Yeah.
It's going to change on Monday though, Ash, when we're going to have a pure basis on our position, right?
Greg, good point. I have no idea
on our position on Monday.
So we've been building a 4-inch up. I want to stay married to that because I'm hedging my inability to understand how that spread can. I don't think the spread can get much wider unless, Matt, as you and I were talking, there is a 25% tariff on Canadian spruce and everybody just wants it, and then you blow out to $300. But I'm going to make a bet that spread is probably not going wider, just considering everything I know now. So I want to stay married and dating 2x4. And just so everybody knows, I'm going to be showing up looking for some 2x6 too, if I can figure out what the hell that market is doing.
You guys don't want to talk about this, but green Doug fir. Green Doug fir is $110 under coastal dry hem fir. And green Doug fir typically leads the market up or down just because it's a little niche market over there. And I'm sure somebody trades it and pays attention to it, but I just feel like that's the most undervalued species that's out there.
The green Doug fir.
Green Doug fir. I don't know what to do with it though.
And dumping wise, I want to, I don't say dump, but I want to move the items that are sitting in a place that I don't know what they're doing or know anything about them that much. 2x12 Austrian No. 2 spruce we got in Rhode Island.
How does that happen?
That was a sport buy? Was that a sport buy, Greg?
Greg just looked up at me and smiled and said, "Hey, it will make it go." And we've sold some trucks of it already. But we do have a chunk of it, 10 to 16 footers. We have straight 12s and 16s, and I am going to make that disappear. I put some pictures on LinkedIn. So that's the one thing I'm going to dump, not because I don't like it. It's just because I don't know enough about it. So that's where I'm at on that.
Does it look good, Ash?
Beautiful.
It's looking.
It's actually gorgeous. Yeah. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. It looks really nice. It looks like all the 2x12 that my dad used to have sitting in his sheds that that didn't really move that often. Every now and then when people won't need it, they need it.
According to Matt, it's perfect timing too, because he thinks 2x12s and everything's so horrible.
Yeah, that could definitely be. Matt, just we introduced can you tell us again how people get a hold of you to sign up? And I know you also said you have a new PhD class starting. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll probably start it in May. It's kind of got everything consolidated. My whole shtick is about repeating human behaviors that create repeating lumber markets. The lumber market is just an expression of how we all behave. And if you get us all together, you got very different opinions, but we come to agreement on certain things like, do you want to build inventory right now? Yes or no? And whether it's uncertainty or economic vibe or whatever you get, or seasonality, the answer is probably no. So you can assume that the industry is at this point liquidating inventory, or by that I mean not replacing what they're selling. And you can see that in the home center yards I use the volume of treated lumber that I see outside the home center yards. If it's an accumulating pile, it'll get bigger. You can tell just by what the pavement looks like that they're moving the lumber out and not replacing it or not. And just my observation right now is those guys are liquidating their inventory, but they're still heavy.
So Matt, you say you go over stuff with human behavior. Now, will you address things in there like me leaving my dishes in the sink or walking up my wife's new carpet runner with muddy shoes on? Like
that would be a great story for one. Aggravating with you all the time.
Because I need that. Just to review, Greg
week, and then in 2 weeks we are in Montreal doing the program live, right, Ash? Is that right?
We are. We are on stage.
Is it safe for us to head up there?
I was going to ask that question.
I know Charles is bringing his muscle with him.
I had a conversation with half a dozen Canadian guys about going up there. Some of them are, some are not. And I said, well, if I just come up and say, hey, after everything I say, do you think can I pass? They said, yeah, give it a try. Just say, my name is Ashley Becko. Hey.
Yeah, Charles like Charles said when I was talking to him in the car on the way over here, and he goes, "Can we just talk about how we do not want to fight with Canada? Like we just want everybody to love each other." When we we all
just get along.
Yeah,
I agree. This is a little outlandish at this point. I was tired of talking about it 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's we got to have it calm down on both sides.
Hey, to answer your question, I got to put a plug for myself. It's laymansguide.com if you want to check out the scoop.
Yeah. And Greg, I do apologize. I was giving you shit because I did download. Look at this.
I know you did.
I know. I'm going to put it in that voice. I
want you to have the sexy grok chick do it. Right?
Do you love that? Do you love that?
I love that. We got to go. We got to have her talk to Charles offline later though, because that is hilarious.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is she British?
It's just whatever voice you want.
Yeah, and especially if you're to complain about your spouse, she'll take up for you really good.
No, this is so good. It is so good. Yeah, Charles, we'll get you offline on that later. Hey guys, thank you. We'll see you soon. Cheers.
All right, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.